Wrong way.
Good morning, friend. We are
Good morning. Good morning.
good morning, good morning, good morning. I am
Good
Christine
morning.
Johnson, co-host of We Missed It podcast, here with my dear friend Teresia Cox. It
That's
is
right.
shortly after 11 a.m. Central Time, and we are ready to get rolling.
That's right. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning,
Good
girl.
afternoon, those who live in the time zones like myself. And good night to all the people overseas.
Yes. So, well, this is a much needed talk. Would you say?
I would say, I would say it
Um,
is a much needed
yes,
talk, and
it
I'm happy to
is.
have it.
Yes, and
Yes.
I don't know if you remember, but the last two podcasts we've been opening with mass shootings, and I refuse to do that today. So I have a little funny for you.
Okay, because I'm ready to laugh.
Yeah, and so you may sometimes hear me open or close the podcast with saying, "Hey, if you have something for us, any suggestions or anything like that." You could reach us on Facebook on We Missed It a podcast, on IG We Missed It dot podcast, or you can email us any uh, feedback, thoughts for topics, future topics or letters at We Missed It dot podcast at gmail.com. So when I do that, it always I want interaction from the viewers. And so it dawned on me, I just start looking up um, letters and things that people send for feedback from other hosts and just over the years. And I found this little funny letter, Tricia, that was so funny. And I thought of you immediately. And I said, it's a short one, but it was so funny. I said, I have got to read this to her. I want you to tell me what you would do in this case. So, because I try to read up on the privacy, I try to do right and I don't want to be reading people's stuff. I'm not going to put names in here. I'm just going to say, Dear Anne.
Mm-hmm.
So, here we go. Dear Anne, I am a 27-year-old woman and I just moved in with my boyfriend. We've been dating for 1 year and we have a great relationship. But of course, there's an issue, or I wouldn't be writing you. Our lovemaking is very good, but we are never alone when we are intimate. There's always four extra eyes very close by staring at us. It's his dogs.
It's his dog. His dogs.
His dogs, plural,
Mm-hmm.
Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
He has a
Okay.
Doberman and a German Shepherd, and these dogs are very spoiled and run the house. When my boyfriend and I get in bed, they jump in too. I'm trying to imagine that. Sorry. Since I moved in, my boyfriend has forced them to sleep on the floor next to our bed since I don't want them in our bed. I don't like this. What should I do?
And you're asking me.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, did you know about these dogs before? And were you making love before you moved in his house?
That's exactly where I was thinking.
Right? I mean, this is not new to you. You
The
knew this
dogs in
this
the bed ain't
person.
new.
Dogs in the bed ain't new. You quietly accepted what you didn't enjoy to get in the house.
Because you wanted
And
to,
now you're
right.
in the, yep, now she's in the house and she'd
And
like
you're
to have a
like, this is
voice.
a deal breaker.
It is for you and I, we wouldn't have made it in the house.
Oh, never. You
We
know,
probably wouldn't have even spent the night
no.
because we're not, into it.
No, I can't do the dogs in the bed. I know that we have a lot of listeners that probably do. And so definitely, this is not to be insulting, but I cannot do the dog, not the Doberman Pinscher and the German Shepherd. I mean, I'm thinking size wise, and they're in the bed with you. Can't do
So
it.
the fur mommies and daddies,
Can't do it.
there
Won't be
are
able to
some
do it.
people who enjoy sharing their beds and their couches and
Ain't gonna
all
be
of
able to
that.
do it.
So I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So the question that you're asking me is, what would we say to her? Because she's not
Yeah.
okay with it. And I say what we know is You should have been talking to yourself about that before you moved in. So you're not having a true conversation with yourself. And now you feel guilty.
Bingo.
Right.
Ding,
You're
ding,
not
ding,
having
ding,
a
ding. That's what you,
right. Right.
that's
What
what
I
you
love to
always say.
say. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding,
She's
ding,
not,
ding.
hey, the conversation she should have been having was with herself, and she didn't. And now she is feeling as if something is not going well because she has participated in something she was not really interested in. And now it's like about the boyfriend and the fact that she lives there. No, mamacita, this was always about you. So you deceived yourself first, and then you deceived the man.
And guess
And now
what?
you need to pack up your shiggity,
Your ish.
your ish.
Because he ain't going to clean up his ish.
It's his house
It's
that you
his
moved
house.
into.
And you know them
Yeah.
dogs ain't going nowhere. We already know
Yes.
that with the animals,
Yes.
right? They're going
You need
nowhere.
yes, you need to get your bags to the left.
As they say.
And leave that man alone.
Oh my gosh. But here
Yes.
is what I loved about it, because it reminded me of something that, when we talk about this, what we missed, it reminded
Mm-hmm.
me of the conversation we always have when we talk about resetting the agreement with ourselves, or
Right.
understanding what we must have or what our deal breakers are. So then we do know how to interact or what to say to others that are in our little circle or that we're interacting with. And in this case, not to belabor the thing with the dogs, but she knew that wasn't okay with her. She should have said that so they could have discussed it before she moved in.
But the question becomes, how long had she been, uh, dating this
Yeah, and
gentleman?
you know how these things are. You have limited information, but it
I
just
don't mean, I don't mean, I'm asking it to you.
yeah,
I'm asking
just
it to
period,
to
right.
period, because
I got you.
like we said, the amount of time that you spent getting to know him, I am going to believe that you were not sharing the goodies before you moved in. I'm not going to believe
No,
that.
those goodies were being shared long
Yes.
before then.
Yes, they were in the goodie
And
bag.
that's what led to the moving
Yes.
in, right.
Yes. And so I think just overall it's a really good little bookmarker for all of us, you know, whom are in these relationships. You have to really go old school. Remember the old school people used to say, don't start anything you can't keep up.
That's right. What they say, don't start something you can't finish.
Right. And so she and myself and other people, we
I've
have to
done it.
really,
I've
yeah, we have to
participated.
be, yes.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
revisit how you got there. You wanted to be in front, and you were probably hugging and kissing on those dogs, trying to let him know I
In the
like these
beginning, right?
babies.
I'm down
Yeah,
for
I
the
want to be,
cause.
look, I want to be added to you all's family. Because you technically got invited into their house.
Oh my gosh.
And they're
Anyway,
looking like, yeah, lady, we like this video. Keep it going.
I just thought it was so funny because she's saying that they're looking, looking at her, and it's feeling
They're
weird, but
thinking we want some of that. Get us some friends. So I think that in all seriousness, I think we all do that, right?
we
We
do.
find ourselves in situations in which we're saying, how did we get here? It was fun on the way, and then we get there, and the party just doesn't feel as good as it
No.
looked from the outside.
You find out it's not your jam, as they say. Not my
No,
not my jam.
no. All the times you drove past, you heard the bass boom, boom,
Mhm.
boom. You was like, "Let me in
You
there."
finally get in the club and you be like, oh, this ain't girl,
It was
this ain't
just the five
look,
people in the window.
this ain't even my crowd. I'm at the wrong
So
place.
look, so that's what I got for that. So I think the bottom line is that's part one, but part two is, what would I say to that person? I would say have a conversation with yourself first, right?
Yeah,
Have a conversation
absolutely.
with yourself, and an honest conversation. And then when you've excavated it, you sat down with it. I hope that you came up with the truth about it, and then have the conversation with the person, and be ready for the possibility that they might not be able to accommodate you.
Exactly.
And if they cannot, to the left, everything you have in a box to the left.
It's either a deal breaker or it's not.
Yes. So in that case, we would hope it would not be a deal breaker. And I hope that the fur babies don't get mad at her. Because when those pets get mad, hold on to your shoes and other things because they coming. He might keep you, but you might lose some shoes, girl.
Right, right, right. So,
Yeah. So
girl.
that's what we got for that.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, goodness. Anyway, so that I just thought that was so funny. Oh, especially because we both don't really always do the animals. So I said Teresia would get a kick out of this. Um,
Well, I was raised with pets,
I was
around my
too, and I
yep,
loved them
yep.
dearly. I really
And
did.
I don't know what happened, but I am not drawn to them in that way. So I know that
Mhm.
I would not be a great mommy and I wouldn't even do that to the babies. So I don't do it. And the cats I'm allergic to for sure.
Oh, I didn't even
So
know that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's what we got with that. And shout out to our girl Michelle and Mika and all the girls who love the babies.
Yeah, Yolanda.
Londa,
Yeah, all
Londa,
of
look,
them.
Londa, because
Mm-hmm.
I am an auntie to these babies. So it's definitely interesting.
Okay.
Definitely interesting. I thought it was a good ha for the Sunday.
Yeah. I ain't really talked to you these past couple weeks. So what's going on in your world?
Well, no. And so, let's talk about it. You and I usually talk a lot in between the shows.
I
And
know.
on your way to the show this morning, we just realized, actually 5 minutes prior, we've not discussed the podcast. We've not talked about anything. And that felt very strange and very odd, because we share in each other's lives intricately. But I think that the biggest thing for me, and I think I did have an opportunity to briefly say that to you, is I have been in the middle of a shift. I think I probably repeated it several times. And more recently, in the last 2 weeks, my plate became very full, and it got full, and I got sick as well. And we weren't even sure. It was said it was. They said it was the flu, and I was all like, "What? The flu? A summer flu?" And I am very COVID conscious, so I'm always ready
I
to run and
know.
take a test. So I did. I took two, and I
Okay.
came up negative. So we're grateful
Both
about that. But
times.
yes, but it
Okay.
also slowed me down, and slowing me down and having to sit still in my house also had me sit still in my shiggity. And I realized I was like, "Ooh,
You ain't like
girl,
some of it, did you, girl?
what?" I was like, "Ooh, Lord, I'm tired." So a couple,
PU.
yeah, it was stinky stink. So a couple things. One is that if you are not slowing down to pay attention, something will show up that makes you have to slow down and pay attention. And you will have to, like the young lady will be doing, about the babies in the bed, you're going to have to revisit your choices and whether you are making the choices that's best for you, and whether your plate, your very full plate, may need to have a few things taken off of it because you're being greedy, and
Yeah.
or what the old folks say, your eyes is bigger than your stomach.
And you want to enjoy the few things on there that you really like.
Exactly. So if you this is good, girl. Wait, if you took too long to eat and you are hungry, you know that you always pick up more stuff to put on that plate.
Yes.
They say
Never
your
go to a
eyes.
buffet hungry,
Yes.
starving.
So your eyes become bigger than your stomach, and then you can't eat all the food you picked up, and you end up throwing it out. Right. So that's the same garbage we're talking about right now. So a couple things showed up, and I know we love to share the closeness of our friendship. And I'll say, for those who are listening, Chrissy and I are not always laughing, giggling, and
No, we're
cockeying.
not.
We had a good old "what are you talking about? Who you talking to?" conversation, a good sisterhood chat. And so, in the midst of me
Yes.
having to sit down, I said, okay, I'd say what, Christine, about three work related things
Work.
that showed up
Yeah.
at one time. And I naively, unrealistically believed, because I am Shaka Khan every woman, that I can I dance to the song.
I'm
What?
the Whitney version.
Yes, I dance to the song. I am every woman, it's all in me. So I am trying to manage everything that's in hand. Everything that's in hand has value to me, and it is in relationship with other people. Right? So I'm like, I can't let nobody down. Well, guess what? I come down with not feeling well. I'm stuck in the house and I'm letting people
And
down,
it all falls down,
and all
like
falls down.
Kanye says.
And so I think for me, the best way to say it is because I write things down, and I think I wrote a little something, and I'm going to share it with you. It says, it's funny when you become conscious that your life is falling apart, and it is a different feeling when you realize your life has been scattered and dispersed all over the place, and you're just giving pieces of it to everyone. And sometimes the way it shows up is because it's really in the busyness, the feeling that you're overwhelmed, and you start making little mistakes. So the little
Yeah.
mistake I made, just for the audience's love, is that I did not communicate effectively with Christine Johnson. And
That's the
what that means
professional
is,
way to put it.
that's because we're talking about Christine Johnson.
The
So we're
the
going to
the,
say
the funny way to
professionally.
put it, can't dang nigga touch base, say something.
Yes, yes. So by the time I got to get you on the phone, you were in full blown WTF do you want chick.
What the what? You still living?
I'm like, yeah. And so I'm like, hello. So we have this podcast, and for those who don't know, we love to talk in between, and we also schedule administrative time. And I did communicate with you that I needed to push some things back, and I would get with you by Friday or Saturday, and I did not do that. And you wanted to know what would cause you to believe that that is okay to not consider. And then when I was sick, you said, and you didn't even let me know when you got to feeling better.
Right. I'm
And
like,
I was
sister,
like,
you
okay,
called me and told me that you was sick. We didn't know what it was. I'm like,
listen.
it was
And
Tuesday morning. I'm in the throes of trying to get to the office. I stopped. Let me take some time. I'm like pushing myself, about to be late for the office. Like, she never even called back to say she was okay.
So I had a couple things show up in that moment because it happened with someone else. I had an appointment with this person. I was there. I was looking for them, and they were not there. And I said, what could have happened that could have gone wrong? And what happened was the same thing. I assumed because I didn't cancel that we were on the same page.
Right.
But that person knew I had gotten ill. So they were like, why did you not say something? Right. So I was willing to take accountability for that. But let's talk about the shit that shows up.
Yes.
In that conversation with you, I was like a tad bit put off because I said, well, wait a minute now. You're supposed to be my girl, my home jam. Why is it that you're acting like you don't know that I've got these things pulling on me and I got unwell? And you said, well, I text you. And I said, well, what was wrong with calling me? And then we became the thing, and it was the volleyball game.
That's right. It's the tennis match.
Yes. And so for me, what I had to come to the conclusion about is no matter how consistent you could be in some seasons, it is just unrealistic that you will not become inconsistent in some other ones. And you have to be very, very honest with yourself about what you are committed to, what you're agreeing to do.
What should really be on this plate, basically.
Exactly. But also, who are you doing it with? And we like to believe that, well, everyone gets it. They see me or they know me and all these things that we tell ourselves. So in the moment of the conversation, basically what happened with me is I had to check the agreement with myself. And the agreement with myself became real simple. Are you experiencing something new? Are you doing something that you have done before? And if what you're doing still affects other people, what is it that you're willing to make an adjustment about if these people matter or if this stuff matters, right? And so for
Exactly.
me, the thing that was showing up that has showed up before is that I unrealistically believe that I can carry all things at one time all the time. And that is not always the case. Sometimes we can't be every woman, we can't be super people. Sometimes you have to sit and go, there's levels of importance, and I'm going to have to do this.
Right.
And I may have to shut down on some things. You may even have to shut down on some people. So the mature thing and the big girl thing is I told everyone I'm unwell and I have a responsibility I'm going to work on while I'm locked in the house. But what I missed is I think I told you it's like the paper that's already lined that we use for
Oh,
notebook
yeah.
writing.
I like that
Yeah, I was like, Chrissy,
analogy.
it's like, yeah, it was like the notebook paper. And sometimes that notebook paper has a little blue lines in it. And sometimes you'll see this little faint pink line in between the blue lines for only Lord knows what, right? And I feel like what was happening was I'm trying to manage the little things, the little pink line, and I'm looking around going, what is the problem? I'm trying to manage this little line here. And I was just faded out on where did I miss it? Where did I miss it that my good girlfriend is not appreciating the way I managed her and my time? And I really had to ask another friend about it because I was like, now let me make sure I'm clear. Now, in the past, because I've been self employed, when I cannot make it into salon, I usually, of course, say I'm not well. But I don't remember if I go back and say, "Hey, I'm well again. Come back." I really was like at a blur of
Yeah.
my behavior. So we really had to work through that. So the
Yeah, I
question becomes,
remember that you pretty much, I would think, I remember you, if not salon, but just with the friendship, you would always, if you weren't well, and I check in on you to see if you're well, you would always, touch base and say, "Hey, I got better," or this happened, or "I'm still dealing with this," if it's a migraine, or just whatever it is.
yeah. So I think for me, I was a little stumped as well because I was like, well, I've said this jokingly. When folks are over 40, why are we still texting twice? What is up with not calling? I was like, at some point, you realize there's a
Pick up the
miscalculation.
phone.
We need to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
We need to say, hey, I'm over here, or what's going on, or are we missing? So I was a little off put as well as you because I said, well, why didn't you just pick up the phone?
Yeah.
And you said, well, I was reading into the text. And
Yeah, because we
according to
were
how the,
texting. It wasn't like you
yeah,
weren't responding. The
yeah,
text to me were saying, "Don't call me, I'll call you." So I was like, "Well, I know
exactly.
I understand busy, so we don't have to go there." So I was waiting for
Yes,
that to happen.
exactly. So I was just like, okay, if the temperament and the tone of a communication becomes confusing or off-putting, or it seems as if it's stagnated, that would be a great question. When do we call? Like how do we know in the world when to call each other?
Yeah, I don't, now that I don't have an answer to, but that's a doggone good question because I feel like that about a lot of other little relationship, little interactions I have. And when it comes to resetting the agreement, one of the things I had to do, which you already know, for me, I had to drop a whole hobby. I had, after the pandemic, I just never went back.
Yes.
I had to just
And so
stop. I was bowling. I just totally stopped. It didn't fit anymore. I couldn't find a place for it to fit. It just was no
yes,
room
and
for it on the
we
plate.
talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about that bowling for years
Mhm.
because it was clear that the bowling was enjoyable.
Yeah, for a time it was, and I think it can be again. It's just that right at this period of my time, and the reason it's such a big deal is because I was so social with it. It meant so much. And then it just got into a period of time where it no longer fit. And so when you talk about resetting the agreement with yourself, I just had to make agreement with myself. Well, this is not something that's mandatory. It's supposed to be fun. So if it gets to the point where it's such a commitment that now it's no longer bringing the it's no longer adding to my life what it's supposed to be. It's come to be too much of a commitment. Time to take a step back.
And I think the key is in those words is adding to my life. Because when you have to do a reset,
There you go.
you
That's
have
how
to
you,
check,
yeah.
correct. You have to check what is the value added to your life. If it's a reset you need to do in a relationship, you need to say, hey, what is going on between me and this person? And what we might have agreed upon before may not be working now. And
Hmm.
how do you approach that? Which is what your letter was about.
Exactly. That's what
And if
exactly.
you,
Yeah, and it
yeah,
forces you to have the hard, like for instance, one of the things that was so funny why I thought the conversation this morning was so funny is because it was like a hard conversation nobody wanted to have. And we were like, hey, we just did that. We done grew up.
yeah. So that's the other thing, right? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It's
very.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation, and in the conversation, I said, "Well, I know she doesn't want to have it," and I knew I didn't want to have it,
Yeah.
but the outcome and the desire was the same, and that was we wanted to stay respectful. We wanted it to be done when we got off the phone and never revisit it again. And
Yeah.
I know for me, we joked about it. We want to be at peace.
Right. That's the
And the way
main,
you,
yeah.
yeah, and the way that you end up having peace is
Yeah.
that you make sure you deal with it, whatever it is, feel whatever you need to feel, and park it there.
Yeah, and I think that that's for me what it was too. It was so peaceful afterwards. We had it, got in there, came to some agreements, got out, and said, "Okay, cool, we
Yes,
good."
yes. So I definitely think that when people, whomever you are, whoever we are, start getting that feeling that you are overwhelmed, when things start showing up, you feel irritable, you don't have the same level of tolerance for things, that it's definitely probably a signal that something needs to make a shift. And one thing that's showing up as I'm talking to you is I have this beautiful friend in my life, and when things bother her, she doesn't say it in the moment.
Right, and I'm hoping you
Uh
you
huh.
talking about me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I conceal
yeah.
very well. I told you I
Yeah,
conceal in the first. I was taught to
yeah,
conceal very early on in life
yeah.
because of what was going on in my household. So I'm a
So
master at that.
So when you're talking to someone or you're dealing with something and they tell you something that happened before, whatever amount of time before, you can be thrown. And you may not have the balance for that because you're like, well, I've already got this heavy. Now you're bringing something forward. So I would like to suggest that if that's something that you do, um, I think Chrissy sometimes thinks she's holding her peace. What basically is happening is that you're kind of withholding from
Yep,
that relationship.
that's a area of wait a minute, girl.
Your
Let me get
shit.
no, wait. I got one for you. At work, I'm gonna do the professional way. So when we do these little one-on-one reviews and I'm supposed to be telling these reps what they're doing right and wrong, that's an area of opportunity.
Uh-huh.
Opportunity for
Yes.
improvement.
Yes. So
That's the
area of
professional way.
opportunity.
That's an area, and
Yes.
it'd be like, just tell the people what they need to do, or look, you need to get better on it. No, they tell us, no, that's an area of opportunity. So that's an area of opportunity for me.
Yes. But what do you think you're thinking when you're experiencing something? You can use me because you brought up a situation, and in the conversation or in the moment you're thinking, I'm not on board with this. I don't like this. What are you thinking is the reason you don't just say it?
Um, in this, you want me to go with this particular case?
Well, we can use this case because it could be so many different things.
In this particular case, at the time, it it's uncomfortable, but once we straighten it out, I'm okay. It's just that when it happens again, then it brings me back sometimes takes me back to the original situation where I guess it wasn't cleared out the first time. See, so what I probably should do is if I have a problem with something that doesn't necessarily feel good, see, for me, something's got to, okay. So, when you talk about when it comes to like reconciling something, have you ever like gone to the doctor and they said to you, Teresia, you said your shoulder was hurting or you said your head was hurting. What is your level of pain between 1 and 10? And you're like, oh, it's a 5. you don't clear it up, you go back, oh, it's a 7 or it's a 10, and they're going to diagnose you or do something for you based on that level. When something is a level 4 to 6 or something like that for me, I don't make it a thing. It's not until it's already up to like 9 and 10 that it becomes a thing for me. So my area of opportunity would be when something is feeling uncomfortable, maybe just around a 5, it's still worth hashing out. Don't just sweep it under the rug because it'll prevent the more uncomfortable feeling later.
Absolutely, because by the
It's
time
almost
it's
the
an
way I
eight
talk
or
about going to the
yeah,
doctor. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, because by the time it's an
Yeah.
8 or a 9, then that person has to manage more emotions with you than
Of
they
course,
probably
because now
would have
you
had
got
to
the now
handle.
you right, now you got the 10 versus the 5 version. So
Yes,
that's and I'm being funny calling it an area of opportunity because I laugh at the way we coin things in the corporate world, but it really
yes.
is. That is something that I need to work on. I can own that.
Okay. Well, don't look serious because I have to own that I have to call more.
No, just communicate. Just communicate.
I was like, okay, while I'm falling apart, everything else is falling apart. So let me get back up. Let me get my Lego blocks and start making a new scenery
Yeah.
because this little model I made is not working.
Yeah.
And I just so wanted to say something, and it's kind of transitioning into another subject. Being a woman, right? Especially being a minority, but I think I can just make it about women overall. I think it's an opportunity for me to say, when you are in communication with someone that you care about and you love, and something does not feel okay, like the young lady that wrote the letter, when you begin to turn your 5s and 6s into 1s and 2s, it is the beginning of you losing sight of who you really are and giving deference to someone else, and it becomes you kind of um, dialing down to where you're not living in your full truth, and that's when things kind of start popping up. So separate from what Christine and I are talking about having the hard conversations as friends, right,
Suppressing it. You're
Christy?
talking about when you
Suppression,
mhm,
correct.
mhm. Which is a
If you
huge
are
thing.
in,
Yeah.
it's a very huge thing because it's how many of us end up feeling depleted, abused, misunderstood. We become invisible because you have a voice and you have things that are affecting you. And if you want to be at your best and give your best, have the courage and learn one little minuscule step at a time to say what you need to say. And if the person that you're speaking to cannot remotely identify and begin to, try to dismiss, disregard, then more than likely that is the beginning of the derailment, not only of yourself, but of that kind of relationship. Because it can happen even with family.
Yeah, I agree. And I also what I want to say there too is when you are going to broach something with somebody that is uncomfortable for you, be willing to accept that they may not agree, and this may be then the new beginning of that agreement with that person.
Correct.
One of the things when we talked about, in the first episode, basically we gave the basis for the podcast and was like, hey, we're trying to go back and see what we missed because we definitely clearly have missed some things. And one of the
Correct.
things I think we both identified for both of ourselves is we weren't ever really no one was really talking to us, and we weren't really, there were a lot of areas in which we weren't being honest. We were kind of like, I
Correct.
guess I hate to say it, but kind of like living a lie type things. And so sometimes in our rearing from childhood and as we go through life, we're kind of given these clues to be this way. And then when you decide you're fed up with it, and then you try to live in the truth, and then somebody's used to you being that other person, now that becomes the deal breaker for that person because you're now showing up as as your true self, and they
As your
want you
true
to be the
self.
person that you were when you were accepting the BS. So the point is, just know that when you decide, and it's almost goes back to resetting that agreement. When you decide to reset the agreement with yourself, just know that some other relationships around you may change. Some of them are going to improve, some of them may fall off, or some of them just the nature of the relationship just might change. But I do think the better thing to do is to go on and reset that agreement, because ultimately that's what's really going to bring the pieces when you reset the agreement with yourself.
Yes, and then one more piece to the to resetting of the agreement, having the hard conversations, looking at the role that you play. It happened in our conversation this morning. In all the years since our childhood, that we were taught to mask things, hide things, rearrange the order of things to make sure everything and everybody else
Everybody else is
around,
okay.
yeah, that they were pleased with us being
Right.
really good behaved young women, and making sure that we projected that we were a compliment to our families and our friendship circles, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of behavior creates some other stuff that you begin to do habitually. And one of those things for me that has showed up over the years, especially the years of late, Christine and I traveled together to do some family stuff. And she saw me get upset with my family, specifically,
Mm.
in a group. And then I said a few things that was a little probably harsh to hear. And I was mirroring what we do. She had never seen us get downright not nice.
Right.
And she was so disturbed. And she was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on. This is not the person I know. Because you go out into the world, and the chameleons that we are, we build these other relationships where we can hide that garbage and then just put all the pretty clothes and all the
That's
sunshine
right.
and the stuff on, right?
Tidy it up, make it
So,
look neat, nice,
what?
presentable.
Yes. So you said to me, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on. This is not the person I know. And then it hit you. Oh my goodness, I realized that there was a lot that happened in your life that
Yes.
everybody doesn't realize how much it's impacted you. And now it's showing up because you're like, no nonsense, not having it, screw everybody, F bombs all day. Christine, forget that we're at the beach and the water is good. I'm about to add to the salt in the atmosphere,
Yeah.
and I'm serving up garbage. So at that season and in that time,
Girl, I
Christine was
remember that so
like,
well.
it's a good one. Christine was like, oh, well, so everything's good. Let's just go on to the next thing. And I was like, no, if you're offended and you're disappointed and this trip is being affected, let's talk about it. And she was adamant. We will discuss this
I said
when
we could
we,
discuss
get back.
it later. You were like,
And I
no.
said, no, no, ma'am. There's no later. It's now. Let's deal with our stuff while we're together in each other's company. And I'm the
It ended up
extremist.
working. It was better, but for me, I'm the sweeper. See, I'm the sweep it under the rug. We'll clean that up later. We'll have more time later.
Yeah. Yeah, well. So I think that just finishing off the share and the and experience is kind of bringing home what I want people to understand is that in order for me to get that situation in clear perspective, I had to be willing to hear what she saw.
Yeah.
I had to be willing to hear what she was seeing and what she was feeling, and not fight for the position of what I thought I was feeling. And I felt as if I was not being understood and supported. So that was a real conversation that really had to have me take some ownness that I may not want to hear the answer because I want to believe that I'm capable of traveling with my friend and my family and contributing to a good time. I'm not contributing to a bad time. But I also wanted to say that in order for us to have that conversation, I had to be extreme with her. Like, listen, every time we get on a plane, we're not guaranteed we'll see each other. Right.
And that's the
And
way
the
you brought
thing,
it to me. And I was like, huh.
yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
the most important part, the reason for the whole conversation for me is this, Christine. It happened then and it happened today and it happened yesterday in my own spirit. Your stuff shows up. And what I realized I begin to do is start thinking everything is always on me. It's all me. It's my
Of
fault.
course.
I start believing that all the garbage that's been said to me over the years, oh, she's repeating the garbage. Because this morning I said, oh,
Of
wait a
course,
minute.
right.
Are you finger pointing? How dare you finger point at me? And you were like, wait a minute, I'm not finger pointing. And in that moment, I made a decision before you left that that was the end of our friendship. That was a deal breaker.
I know,
We were not
and
going
this
to be
shows you how
friends.
different. It's very interesting that you would say that because you remember my take on it?
I just remember you called me and said, I realize I need to call you now that we're back home because I think you thought that that was a deal breaker for
Yeah.
me.
And
And
it's
I
so funny
said,
for me. And this is so funny how different people have all these different outlooks, and it shows you why like talking is so important. I feel it's really strange. You know, you sometimes feel like you talk yourself to death and talking is overrated, but then in another sense it's so important because for me, the kind of blow up that we had on that trip, like it wasn't even at all a deal breaker. Like, not even it hadn't even hit my mind that it might be a deal breaker. I was like, "Oh, we used to argue at home. I grew up arguing all the time with my brother and my father, and nothing's ever a deal breaker. I didn't feel that way at all." And then I got home from the trip, and I'm like, "Something's wrong. She think we're not gonna be friends because of that?"
yes, but do you remember why I thought that?
Well, because you were struggling with
Please
something
do tell.
else, with abandonment
Well,
stuff, right?
yes,
That wasn't my issue.
no,
I'm used to
correct.
having
So,
blow ups and we just move on like it didn't even happen. That's what's going on in my household the whole time.
correct. So that's the share I'm having is that in order to
Yeah.
get to the better side of everything, is that you're going to have to realize that perhaps you have to realize what your stuff is. And so it's just what you
So you're
said.
saying identify your own, right? But I guess
Shiggity.
yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
clean
It
up
was
your
my
stuff.
shiggity.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah. Because you said you were dealing with some abandonment issues. Well, you've been my friend for 20 plus years. You knew that there were some abandonment
Yes,
issues.
I did, but of course that
Very,
wasn't on
very,
my
very
mind.
recent.
Yeah, I did what
Very, very recent.
yeah.
Right. But not in that moment were you thinking about that.
No, I was just like, why would you think that we wouldn't still be the same? It just never dawned on me that you would think that we wouldn't be.
Because I had just lost a friend.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
I had just
You had
lost a
just lost a
friend.
friend. That's right. Who would have been traveling with us too, as a matter of fact. But and
And
I'm
you
coming
were
from my
we
own
were
perspective.
yeah. And so that is what I'm saying about even this morning. Remember in the conversation, I said, "Uh-oh, this is Teresia stuff." This is how I begin to feel. Folks are pointing the finger.
Yeah.
Folks are like, throwing me back on the island. I know I'm Caribbean, but my goodness, can I get a little mainland love?
Kick you
Can
back
I
on
get
over
some
there.
love on the mainland? Yes. And that's really the messaging is that we had to talk through it because I said, well, you know what? I know this is a person who cares for me. And I know we're very blatantly honest and pure with one another.
We are.
Nobody's trying to throw anybody under the bus
Not
or
at all.
elevate above. So whatever is going along with this heavy plate, it has not just the physical responsibility and the mental responsibility, it has emotional garnish on top of your plate. This is just the garnish
Yep.
that makes the plate look good. It's not edible. So remove the garnish so you can get to the good stuff. And that's really
I
kind of
agree.
the most important thing I want people to understand is that um, making yourself feel great, choosing peace at all times. It all sounds very whimsical. I know once you listened to some people and said, Teresia, how is it these people are going to say, all you got to do is say this
I would
positive stuff and feel this way?
I would listen to people say that. No, do you hear them say it all the time?
Yeah.
When people are saying, you know, there may be some expert on TV, and somebody will say, well, if you're feeling down or you're feeling depressed, how do you change that? And they just say, you hear experts, they say, oh, I just go straight to gratitude. And I'm like, if you're feeling down and depressed, most people don't have the ability to flip a switch and go to gratitude. They just don't have that ability. That's why they're feeling down and depressed. Can you give me something else? What else you got?
Exactly. Exactly. So if I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend and she tells me,
Right.
hello, communication did not go well and I am not pleased, and these are the repercussions to that decision, I cannot then become guarded and defensive and or say, can we look at my track record from before? Can we only look at my good grades and not look at
I
my
know.
bad
And it's so
look,
funny
my
because
bad
even the
study
conversation, I
habits?
said, well, I'm not counting. I was like, I don't have a, I don't have,
So the moral, what's the moral of the story? Life is happening,
right. I'm like,
whether
I
we
ain't got
like
no
it or
totals
not.
here in front of me now, Teresia. You may want to
Yeah.
revisit
Well,
anymore.
listen. I challenge any audience member, get into it with Christine Johnson. It's gonna sound like she got a scorecard on you. So that is gonna, yeah. So she could be in just as pleasant.
Well,
I'm not counting.
listen,
Yeah, she
listen.
counting.
I'm a Virgo. You know that's what we do.
You know what? I just got through with one. Yes.
Yes, girl, that's what we
You be
do.
thinking
I have,
you're thinking that all is well, and they just sitting there going, "Oh, A, file box B, two, file box B," and then time goes by, and they're like, "Hey, I got a file over here on all of your habits,
your
behaviors,
ish.
thoughts," and I was like, "Who does that? Who creates a file and then gives it to you and say, here, I'm
Clean up
supposed
your
to now clean
crap.
up." Yeah. I'm supposed to now fix all the shit at one time to make you feel better. That is relationship dysfunction at its best. So I just wanted to make sure that
Oh
we
gosh.
really know that to get to wholeness, to get to peace, to get to joy, to get to health, you have to understand that there will be some images in the mirror that's gonna look like a fun house. It's gonna be all wobbly and you're gonna be off.
Yep.
And it's gonna be like that movie that they made. What is it? This Is Us or Us, where the people was like doppelgangers.
Oh yeah, yeah. that's what
So
that's
yeah,
that's a good
this is you
analogy.
and this is the you that got outside.
Yep,
So how
yep.
do you go get the you that's outside and identify that person and bring the right one back in? It's a whole script.
Yeah.
It's a whole movie. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared as transparently as I could. We are all works in progress all the time. And it is
Yeah.
only fair and right that we give grace because there will be some times that we need
That you
grace.
need it. Yep. That's funny that you would say work in progress. That was one of my sayings when I was still bowling. I would have written on my shoe WIP because it didn't matter what good I did or what bad I did in the sport. It was always still a work in progress.
See? And that season of life when you were bowling all the time and in the leagues, you know, it's just one of those rare sports that people just don't do as much anymore.
Yeah.
And it's, as with most things, something that makes you unique and have a good perspective. So, just as a
Yeah.
good funny and a share, we were on a trip once, people, and we were traveling with some friends. And one of the young ladies we had never met arrived on this trip, and she found out a couple of little, things about Christine and her ways and her habits and her things, and she began fully girl crushing. And
She
Christine was
did so much
so
so that I was
uncomfortable,
uncomfortable. I didn't know
so
what to do with that.
uncomfortable.
I'm like, oh,
So
stop.
whenever we think of bowling now, it's been
You
tainted for
think,
me.
yeah,
It's tainted for me. I just remember
because you
that you
think of
became the
that.
cool girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
you became the cool, sexy, classy girl because you knew how to bowl. I was like, dang, the rest of us could do stuff.
Right.
I was like, oh my Lord,
Oh
Chrissy, this girl is
gosh.
like fanning,
Yeah,
fanning
she
out,
did. She had
fanning
girl
out.
crush. I don't know if I've ever experienced a girl crush like that either. I was like, "Oh, wow." And it was really just that. It wasn't anything. I mean, it wasn't like she was liking me like as a romantic interest, but she was really crushing on me as a person. And I think part of it was like I didn't feel deserving of it either. I'm like, I
I think the most important part of it is that when she was doing it, it was in a group, and the whole group got, like dismissed in close
yeah, it's got
proximity.
she
And
laser
then the
focused in
spotlight,
on me. I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
Oh,
The spotlight was on you, and I, as your girl, was sitting there gloating
I
like,
know.
how you
You
go?
thought it was funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
You was like,
And I
"Oh,
was like,
look
how
at her.
you go?
She's not
Squirming,
comfortable." Right.
squirming,
She's
squirming,
yeah, she's squirming. I was like, "Tree, get this girl
squirming.
off
Every
me."
now and then, yeah, every now and then I do enjoy watching you
Yeah,
get
watching me
uncomfortable.
feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of those muscles that you have to stretch out. And whenever people are too celebratory, you're like, what is happening
I
right
know. I don't
now?
take it well. Yeah, I got to work on that. See, another area of opportunity. It's always that.
Area
And
of
look, girl, wait a
opportunity.
minute. Guess what the other one they called it? So they got areas of opportunity. And guess what the
Hmm.
other one is? What are your areas of strength?
Oh, yes. I love those kind
Hmm.
of managerial assessments.
So keep that in mind when you see them.
Oh, yes. So, what would be one of my areas in strengths, Christine?
Um, oh wow, there's so many. You have a lot of
We'll
areas of
take we'll
strength.
take one.
Oh, definitely your generosity, I think. For
Yes, when
sure.
I'm not doing not for profit work.
Yes, for sure the generosity is there. Um, yeah, just sweet, generous, welcoming, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that your critical thinking is bar none. Yeah, that's why we volley so
Right,
well. Because I'm
right.
like,
That's
what?
true.
Yes, break it down, tear it apart, sister,
I know. I
organize it.
dissect it, don't I? I break it down.
Yes, and then deliver it with the classy, calm.
Put some kind of spin on it. Although lately I
Yes.
have been told that I'm a bit abrasive. Or let's see, I don't even think they call it abrasive. What word was that? And this is coming from people I work with. But anyway, yeah, I
They
deliver
gave
it.
you a new word.
Yeah, I kind of deliver it. I'm a straight shooter. That's what they call me.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
we develop different as we mature.
yeah. So
I think I'm okay with that because you may not know this, but a lot of people say that I could be a little hard with no chaser myself.
yeah, that you used to be that way more so than now. But yeah,
Yeah, I used to look, I used to get it done.
get the
That
get the people together.
yes, I was a get it together kind of lady. I think so for sure. Um, on another note, something I saw this week. I think I briefly talked to you about it. I girl, two things. Listen here. Why somebody tell me that it became a conversation that Lori Harvey and Michael B. Jordan broke up?
Girl, wait. Well, here's what. Wait a minute. Now, to show you how. Wait a minute. No, 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 no. Seriously, to show you how much we're on the same
Hot
page. I
topic.
felt the same way. No, listen. I must tell you this. I was on my way to see a customer at work, driving in my
Mm-hmm.
territory,
Mm-hmm.
and this woman on the radio. And I mean, I'm like 1 minute from the address I'm supposed to be at, and this woman on the radio says, "Celebrity couple broke up," and the way she said it, girl. Can I tell you where my mind went? I was like, "Oh man, Denzel and his wife done broke up. Barack and Michelle. Look, I'm like Barack and Michelle done broke up. I'm like,
Oh my
damn."
gosh.
So
Oh my
listen, do
gosh.
you know that thing bothered me so much? I stayed in the car and was a little bit tardy getting in that appointment, trying to hear what she said. And do you know who she had the nerve to mention?
Yes.
This Michael B. Jordan and Lori Hart. Do you know how far that is from my mind? Like they're nothing to me. And I don't have anything against either one of them, but I didn't even have them up there ranked like with some celebrity couple. Maybe I
You
was
think it's
supposed
because of our
it's our
generation?
ages. I'm thinking we were probably supposed to have them up there like that. And I did not. And when she said it and was waiting in my car late for an appointment just to hear who this was, I was very let down. I said, son of a gun. I didn't wait in the car for this.
For this
For
foolishness.
this
Well,
fool.
I want to tell you what caught me to even look it up is that it was two things. One was a young gentleman on YouTube was, how they have those I guess influencers to discuss these hot topics.
Yes.
And I didn't know what that they had put, or I don't know that it was a definite reason put out there or if it was an assumed reason, but supposedly he wanted to go to the next level with this relationship, I guess, and make it,
Oh, he's
more.
trying to seal that deal.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and she was not ready for that. So
Oh,
of
really?
course, this young gentleman who's doing the review, looks about her age group, 20s,
Mhm.
and he's basically saying, you know, why try to take a street chick and make her a house chick? Because they're showing the pictures of the men she was with before, and was like, fault of yours, Michael. So I was like, well, dang, I'm tripping. I'm like, what's going on? And then it made me go kind of try to look and see, well, what else am
Ooh.
I missing? Because how do we know that that's what really happened? We never know that this man actually wanted to pursue
I don't
something on the
know.
next
But
level.
I don't
We don't
believe.
know, but why are you feeling, you stranger who does not know these people? Why do you feel like you need to be the one giving this information out about this
Because that's how he's
speculative breakup?
because Tricia, that's how he's making his money.
Okay, so social media
That's
at its
why.
best, number one.
Mhm.
Social media at its best, number two. As I went to Google to see what real responses and articles was showing up, it then said that her mother, Marjorie,
Mhm.
posted a cryptic message. And so the cryptic message was, if you sit in dung long enough, you'll begin to smell like that. The title of our show, Get Out of That Shit.
Wait a minute. If you sit in what long enough?
If you sit in dung shit long enough, you're gonna begin to smell like it. So get out of
Oh.
it. And I was like, what in the name of him who I serve is this woman at 50 some years old posting this comment to get in the game? And I just was like, girl, she said, but you heard that, right? If you
Well,
hang
yeah.
around that stuff,
Yeah, I've heard of
right?
that.
If
You
you
sit in
sleep with
shit long
dogs long
enough, you
enough, you
smell
end up
like
with
it.
fleas.
Mhm.
Remember that?
Oh
If you
yeah, I've
sleep with
heard
dogs
that
long
one.
enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I thought today for me, I went back to what is happening, that we have this tendency to want to add into conversation at a certain age.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I would have sat
So
on the sidelines for that. I don't. I just okay. So they broke up. Okay, because that could die for me. I mean, see, and I think we're older, but that could die real quick. You don't have to say anything.
okay, so if we were to take Marjorie's advice, if you sit in dung long enough, you're going to smell like it. It is the point about how you need to go ahead and do that self assessment. You need to do the work when you feel like it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And don't, don't do like Marjorie's telling you not to do. Don't sit in your stuff too long, people.
Yeah.
Begin to clean
Well,
up
that
your
part is true because
stuff.
it begins to shape you, and it's hard to when you get shaped. It's hard to undo all that.
Yes, and it might give off a little fume. And then your good friend like Christine may have to tell you, your shit is fragrancing not nice over here.
You know what? What time is it? Hey, look, what time?
It's
I
time.
can't even do this
Bless
with you.
bless the Lord, because I closed us out. You saw that
Look,
segue.
I'm looking over like, look, ain't it time to go?
Clever. You saw how I wrapped that up for you, tied that bow for you.
Listen, folks, this is the We Missed It podcast. I'm here at intellectualradio.com. Miss Cox is in her home studio, as she likes to call it. And we're going to wrap it up. If you want to reach us, you might want to give us feedback on the topic. You may have a suggested topic. You may have your own scenario or letter that you want us to review. You would send that to us at Gmail email. Look, I can't even talk anymore. We missed it podcast at gmail.com, or you can reach us on Facebook or view our Facebook at We Missed It a podcast, and IG is We Missed It podcast. But anyway, girl, so grateful for all our little experiences. I always grow after them, and we come out better and stronger as we are today. So I hope that you enjoy this beautiful Sunday, and I will be calling you shortly.
All
And
right. And
thank you
happy
for
belated
listening.
birthday, Earl.
Oh, I didn't even know. Why did happy birthday, Earl? He said it's
It
not.
passed, right?
He said
Wasn't
it
it
passed. I
passed?
guess it passed,
I said
Earl.
happy. I said happy belated birthday.
Oh,
Squirrel.
but he said it's not. He said it's ox. See, he's a Virgo too, so he probably agrees with me on.
Well,
He's a
on
Leo.
On the
So
Facebook
he probably
thing,
agrees with me on
Facebook.
everything. He's a
Okay.
Virgo, but he's a Leo. Okay. Anyway, girl.
You're right. You're right. I just saw something pop up on Facebook.
Oh,
I said,
that's it.
well, I didn't know Earl had a birthday. So that's because I'm a non-Facebook.
Yeah, right. You and me both,
person.
which
I'm
is
not
why.
professional. Yeah.
Listen. He said thanks anyway. So that means you
That's
ain't got to
okay,
say it in
girl.
July, in August.
So I'll save it for
She's
Virgo
already
season.
told you happy birthday in June for August.
Yeah, I'm gonna save it for Virgo season.
I see you, baby.
That's what we
Adios, girl.
Adios.
Get your shine on. Get your glow up. One time for the babies on the south side, the east side.